Hello and welcome to another special edition of Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster. I am the host of the program. And this evening we have a special opportunity to focus upon an institution and a body that is going to be looking at what is important in our community. As I've said on previous programs, that our churches and our schools form the basis for any community, and certainly we are concerned about those who are going to attend to the workings for our young people and our children in our schools. Tonight I have the pleasure of having 5 candidates who are vying for service on the school committee for the next 3 years, I believe it is. And on April 8th, you will have an opportunity to make your decision as to which candidates you will support for the 2 open positions on the school committee. You will hear from them tonight to learn who they are, why they're running, and their responses to some of the questions, which I hope will give you an opportunity to get a feel for who has presented themselves to you and what is their qualifications and capabilities to serve on the school committee. I am now going to introduce the persons who are candidates for those positions. To my immediate left is Deborah Sovany, who is currently a member of an incumbent on the school committee member. Next to her is George Dolinsky, who is an incumbent member of the school committee. Next to George is Randy Yanoff, who is a candidate for the school committee, and I'm not sure if Randy has run for this position before, but nonetheless, he's a candidate at this particular time. Next to him is Kate Pina Enochian, who is a candidate for the school committee. And next to her is Jochen Soers, who is a candidate for the school committee. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to Community Forum.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to give you an opportunity because this really is an opportunity for the citizens of Stoughton to see who you are and what your thoughts are and why you're running and also why they should elect you. So therefore, I'm going to give you an opportunity, each of you, to, at the beginning, to 2 minutes to tell them why you're running, who you are, and your connections to Stoughton, etc. So, Deborah, you're to my immediate left. I'm going to start with you and go right on down the line, and then we'll move on from there. So,
good evening, and thank you for hosting this forum. My name is Deborah Sovany, and I have lived in Stoughton since 1991. My husband and I bought land on Palisade Circle and built our house with our own hands. Our daughter graduated from Stoughton High School and is now in college. I love living in Stoughton. In many ways, my journey here has been unlikely. Like some of you, my grandparents came to this country when they were young. My grandfather had no formal education, and my grandmother only had 1 year, which was enough for her to teach him to read and write. As the youngest in her family, my mom was the first to graduate from high school. Her siblings left school in 8th grade, which seemed like a lot of education to them to go to work. My dad left high school and joined the Navy and only later got his GED. He took college classes and became a VOTEC teacher. I was the first in my family in any generation to go to college. But every step of the way, my family saw that the way to a better life was through education. Over the last 4 years, I've worked really hard, and I have loved almost every minute of it. My accomplishments include working with Dr. Rizzi to revamp our budget document so that it included more information, more graphs, and better explained our values and how our improvement plans informed the budget. I've taken many hours of training alongside teachers and administrators so I can understand the educator evaluation law and process, and as chair, I led the school committee in evaluating the superintendent under this new system. I authored and reinstated the school committee public comment policy. Finally, I led the community-wide efforts to get Stoughton accepted into the school building process, which will help generations of students, staff, and citizens with this investment in the future. Thank you.
George?
Thank you, Joe. I'm running for the school committee because I know I can continue to make a difference. My proven track record of service to our community is unparalleled by any other person running for the office. I've served as a town meeting rep for over 30 years. I've also been on the finance committee for 9, 9 years that is, the Conservation Commission for 9.5 years, and the Council on Aging for 9 years. I've been actively involved with Stoyak and its various programs for over 40 years, and I'm currently the basketball program director. I know the issues and concerns, and I'm ready and willing to meet the challenges that we are facing, including designing and building a new high school. Hopefully, you'll consider me for one of your votes in April.
Randy?
Hi, my name is Randy Yanoff. I grew up in this town. I went through the school system. I went Gibbon School, graduated Stoughton High School in '91. My kids now go to the schools. My daughter is in 8th grade at the O'Donnell Middle School, and my son is in the 5th grade at Gibbon School in Stoughton. I remember growing up through this town and how great the school system was. I've seen, unfortunately, a decline in the school system over the past few years, and I'm hoping to make a big change in the school system as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy. Kate?
Hi, my name is Katie Pino-Anokian, and I am running for school committee because I want Stoughton schools to be as desirable as they were over 10 years ago when I chose Stoughton for my children's education. My husband Vaughn and I have 4 children, 3 of which attend the Gibbon School now. My oldest son goes to Southeastern Regional High School. He attended Gibbons and then O'Donnell Middle School. Having children in the Stoughton school systems mean I have experienced firsthand how decisions made by school committee and administration affect my children's education. I believe that our children need an advocate to make sure that they are receiving what they need and deserve to succeed in school and beyond. No 2 children learn alike, and I believe that schools need to have the appropriate resources to adapt the curriculum so that each and every child has the opportunity to succeed. The fact that our teachers still do not have a contract is appalling. These teachers have gone above and beyond helping our children grow. Lastly, I would like to say that I am here because I want to make an investment in Stoughton and in the education and future of all our children.
Thank you very much, Kate. Joker?
I want to thank Mr. Feaster, the citizens and parents of Stoughton, and the candidates. My name is Joe Soares, and I'm running for school committee. I lived in Stoughton for 41 years, and I've paid taxes for that length of time. I am proud of my Stoughton and Portuguese heritage. I've been married for 47 years. We have 2 children who graduated from the Stoughton school system. Between them, we have 4 wonderful grandchildren. The most important responsibility of the school committee is to advise the superintendent. I am running because I believe the current school committee is failing to supervise the superintendent properly and failing to keep her accountable. At a time of crisis, the Stoughton School Committee has given the superintendent a premature contract extension and an exorbitant raise. Sometimes people have a difficulty in saying no. Most Stoughton schools perform at around state average, which is good, but we should and much do a better job. The high school SAT scores are below average. Gibbon School was once the best elementary school in Massachusetts. Sadly, this year, Gibbon School was demoted to level 3. Our West School is currently ranked at the bottom 15% of the Massachusetts elementary schools. The parents are appalled to find out that the superintendent could not spend the annual school budget and returned $780,000, which could be spent elsewhere with school committee authorization. Parents are appalled watching the practices of the superintendents and school committee's unscrupulous hiring practices. I believe it is essential for the school committee and administration to conform to the highest ethical standards and always comply with the laws and regulations. A survey of our teachers was done in December of 2013. Almost 200 teachers took part. The results show a negative review of both the school committee and the superintendent. Our children deserve an education they will be proud of, and we have great children with great teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. You are just a great group. You stayed within the time limit, and for any program host, that is always a blessing. So let's start with some of the questions. There's a few things that have been said during your opening statement, which I think I'd like to have each of you respond to. And George, I'm going to start with you. there are at least, it has been mentioned that the schools have declined, both in terms of the high school and in some, and again, throughout the elementary school, the high school, and the middle school were mentioned. You have been on the school committee, and you were there front and center. What's your reaction to that accusation or belief by many that the schools are declining in Stoughton?
I disagree.
Okay.
I don't think the schools are declining. You take a look at our graduating classes. Anywhere from 90 or more, or 90% or more, go on to advanced education, whether it be four-year schools or community colleges. Some go into the service, and some go into the working force. When you have as large a graduating class as we do that are going on to advanced education, it says something. And when you take a look at the list of colleges our students are going to, it's impressive. You have kids that have gone to Harvard. You have kids that have gone to RPI and Worcester Poly Institute. They go to some of the prestigious schools. That's not true that the schools are declining. The makeup of the schools is changing. We have an influx of 40B projects, okay? We have some kids that are coming in that are not as fully prepared for education. And you can't knock the schools and say the schools are declining. Education doesn't start in the schools. Education starts at the home. And that's where it has to begin. And I'm against anybody who says our schools are declining. Just look at the results. Look at the students. Look where they've gone. That says something.
Okay. Randy, same question.
I went through the schools. My kids are in the schools now. I'll be honest, they're not the same as when I went there. I don't believe they are getting the same education as when I went through the schools. My graduating class sent 2 kids to Harvard, a kid to Duke, to some of the best schools in this country. They're not doing that right now, okay? So there is a decline in our public school system. There is a decline on how things are done. Just by watching everything that's going on, but now I decided to get involved because of what I've seen. Because the Gibbons school that I went to, which was, like we said, best in the state, has now dropped to a level 3 school. So to be honest, to say it's not in decline, you can't make that statement because obviously it is going backwards. It's not going forward because Gibbons school wouldn't be a level 3 if we were going forward.
Kate.
Hi. I will have to say that I agree with Randy that the Gibbons has gone down. And as for the other schools, I'd like to look into that more. But I think that if we stopped so much administration spending and put some more spending into the classrooms, you wouldn't see so much.
Joker.
Well, we do know that, first of all, I think Stoughton is probably an average school system. I think that we can always do better with our school system. I know that there are a bunch of things that have taken place with I think our school system has declined somewhat. It could do better. We know that the Gibbons school system has some problems. I believe we know that the West School has some problems. Our teachers right now are basically somewhat dissatisfied because of their contract, and I can understand that. Now, does that have an effect on the teachers on the teachers and how they're teaching? I do believe so. I know that if I get up in the morning and I'm not really in a good fighting mood, I'm not as responsive as I would be. Now, I believe that'll be taken care of as the future comes along, etc. But I still think that we can always tighten up and do better in our school system, and I believe we still have a way to go in order to really make it as good a school system as it can possibly be.
Deborah, you're on the school committee. You're an incumbent, and so you've been there. The sense is, and I've heard it not only here, but I've heard it from others, and even have inquired about it on my own, that the schools are declining. We're not performing at a particular level, either by way of the SAT scores, the MCAS scores, or whatever occurring. What say you?
Well, first off, the schools can always be improved. That's, no matter what school system you are in, it can always be improved. But we have a very, very good school system. We do, growth on our MCAS scores is very, very good. It's definitely above average, above the state average. As for the Gibbons School, each of the elementary schools has a specialty. At the Gibbons School, it has a life skills program for our highest need students. And there was a group of very, very high need students that at the time that they were tested, honestly pulled some of the scores down for the school. The thing is that at the Gibbons School, it's still a very, very good school. And I don't hear anyone actually complaining about the education that their children are getting in a particular classroom and with a particular teacher. The SAT scores certainly need to be improved. One of the things that the administration has done is to mandate that all students take PSAT scores. Now, that gives our students a chance to take the SAT exam, and if they do not take the SAT exam, then their prospects for college kind of end right there. So we have a very, very high rate of SAT participation, higher than almost any of the surrounding schools. We are working on a SAT prepping program, but I want to say that some of the obsession with MCAS and with SATs is, I think, misplaced. SAT scores increasingly, even at very highly selective colleges, are optional, and that's because there's actually no correlation between SAT scores and how well you do in college or your graduation rate.
Well, I don't want to, Roy Cohen has told me to be the clock czar, and I'm certainly going to try to adhere to that, but thank you for
Okay.
your answer. But Randy, I want to come back to you, because it's, some of you, and I'll probably ask the same question to you, Kate, and to you, Joe, and you say, okay, the schools are declining, you're not seeing the same education, having children in the school and or having attended Stoughton High School or the Stoughton schools. As a school committee person, what type of changes would you propose? What types of things would you implement in order to address that?
Honestly, I would like a review of all the principals and everyone in administration right now to see if everyone's being held accountable for what they actually say they're doing. I mean, if you really take a look at it, is everyone being accountable for what they do? Is people just going, doing willy-nilly whatever they want to do throughout the school system? Are the teachers being held accountable by the principals? I want to see a lot of that information. And then we can go from there after we do research and find out, if the teachers are doing what they're supposed to do. If they're, and that's obviously goes into the contract talks of, I'm not privy to that information so that could be why things aren't settled or not settled. I don't know. But I mean, those are things that we really need to take a look at as someone honestly from the outside wanting to be part of the school committee. I want to be able to, I grew up in this town. I'm proud of this town. I still live in this town. And to be honest, you start looking around and you start seeing, how they say that we're supposed to, judge the school system is by these test scores. That's how, I don't want to say this the wrong way, property values, everything is affected by how good your school system is doing. And so we kind of do have to look at all those test scores that, that my colleges might not look at, but that's kind of how the, towns are judged right now. And that's how, other people looking into towns to see how the school system is. I mean, are there certain things I want to change? Yeah, there are. But I want to take a good look at it when I'm in to make sure that, I don't walk in and go willy-nilly and say, all right, we want you gone, no. You still need to have an educated person, to look at it. I graduated college, graduated Quinnipiac in Connecticut. No one can just walk in willy-nilly and just say, I want these people gone. You still got to take a look at it and make sure that the decisions are right. There's certain people I do want gone, just by, because I think we should be running the school committee not the superintendent running the school committee.
Okay. Kate, you also felt that the schools were in decline, maybe to a lesser degree than what was stated by Randy. But again, if you were elected to the school committee, what are some of the changes or that you would try to implement in the school system?
I want to say that at the Gibbon School, the teachers are amazing. They're doing all they can do, and I believe that my children are going to do well. But I do think that maybe we could incorporate maybe some new, we have a walk to read at the Gibbons. Maybe we could do like a walk to math. You know, something that we could get into the curriculum to help the children so that when they are taking their test or that they can get better grades on them. I would have to really talk with the teachers, find out what they could use to have better test scores.
I just want to, before I get to you, Joe, I just want to add, generally, my wife's an educator in the Boston system, and so as I hear on Pillow Talk, I hear about what's going on in the educational systems there. A lot of things I just want you to think about as well, because I probably will ask this question. There are a lot of things which are state mandated through the Department of Education, and there are a lot of different things. There's issues in terms of the contract as to what things teachers can or can't do. So as you're thinking about what you might want to implement, you may want to put it in that context, that there are some things which are mandated from other places as far as how they evaluate the school system. But Joachim, I know that you as well felt that there has been a decline.
Well,
in the school system.
I always believe that if you're going to change something, it has to be changed from the top down. So the CEO has got to be the model. The CEO has got to be able to put into performance the direction the CEO wants that particular organization to go. If the CEO is volume conscious, if he's I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment here for a second. But if the CEO happens to be, if he was a manufacturing supervisor, and if he was volume conscious, then what he would do is he would push for volume. If he was quality conscious, then he would push for quality. But what he basically has to do is push for both. So if it has to be done from the top down, then that CEO, which would be Dr. Rizzi has to get her organization together. She has to explain to the organization in which direction she wants her organization to go. She is the one who will tell her organization what standards that she expects. And from that, then she will put her process, in motion. And then once that gets done, then what she has to do is then have meetings to see how everything is going, how her whole program has been set up, and what needs to be done. Now, the other thing that has to be involved, from what I can see, is I don't see the involvement of the parents. It's easy. First of all, the child who's being taught. That's easy, because the child comes to school, and the child is right there and available. The teacher who is teaching, that's easy. She's available. So we can get both the child and the teacher together. But we can't get the parents together. Why? Because the parent works hard. My God, they have so many other things to do, take care of their kids, clothe them, feed them, etc. So there has to be some type of a program set up so that we can get these parents involved with the school system, with the teachers, with their children, etc. And that's the only way I really know how to do it. And the one thing I found out going to the school committee meetings is that all of the principals said the most difficult person to get involved is the parent.
Well, we'll come back to that and give you an opportunity to expand upon it in some of the question, an additional question I might posit to each of you, and you can speak more about that. But I'm going to give Deborah Sovany an opportunity to respond to the question. You were one who said that the school system is doing okay.
It's doing more than okay.
All right, well, fine. Well, why don't you take a moment to explain what you mean by that, and then George, I'm going to come to you.
So first off, the Walk to Read program and there is a Walk to Math program. Both of those programs were developed and implemented by Dr. Rizzi. The other thing I want to talk about is the Department of Education reviewed the school just this past year, and they detailed 10 strengths that the school system has, particularly the school administration. Most districts that are reviewed only have 3 or 4 strengths, so they did remark upon that, and they also pointed out that our school district was the highest rated of all the school districts they had reviewed all year. The other thing about improving the schools is that a couple things that I had talked to Dr. Rizzi about a couple years ago was what we can do to help lift students. And the number one thing is to expand the school day by offering after-school remediation and after-school enrichment. And both of those places and both of those things have started and are in place and will be expanded next year. But one thing I do want to point out that in the last 5 years, the poverty rate in the school system has doubled from 15 to 30%. And that really, in any school system across the entire nation, that's actually the number one difference between a very high-performing school system like Concord Carlisle or a lower-performing system. And that is at the root of some of the things, some of the programs that we're offering, like the parent engagement, parent liaisons, and expanding our preschool offerings and outreach to families of very young children before they even get into the school system.
I'm joking. You're not the only one having a senior moment. I'm having one as well.
Good. I'm glad I'm
I
not
can't,
alone.
I can't remember if I've already asked George the
You
question.
did.
I believe I did, and I think this is for. I thought I started with you, Randy.
You
That's what I
started.
did. See, I'm not. See, I am. Thank you for restoring my faith in that I know what I'm doing here, Randy. George, I don't think you've had a chance to speak to this question because you as well felt that the schools are doing fine.
There's a lot of things going on in the schools today with the enrichment programs, the various things that were mandated by the Department of Education, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We had our review. We did very well, as Deborah stated earlier, with the 10 positives, where most of the other school districts were like getting 3 and 4. People have talked about manufacturing and comparing this to a manufacturing operation. We have a very good superintendent. As a matter of fact, she's working very hard. When you have a new superintendent that comes into a situation and you start detailing what you want, a lot of times when you're used to a prior employer or a prior superintendent, people resist the change because they don't like what's going on. They're used to the norm, or what they consider the norm. And I think we're doing very well in training our teachers. There are certain things that are mandated that we have to be trained at. Teacher evaluation is coming up, and sitting into one of the lessons on the teacher evaluation and what they have to go through is becoming harder and harder for a teacher to be evaluated because there's so many things that they are required to perform and to do to be able to maintain their position. A number of things that were also said about returning money, and I think we can get into that a little bit later, but I think you may have a question on that too. But at the same time, I see direction and I see positiveness. I see the teachers in action. I was in the school today for a reading at the South School, and the enthusiasm of the teachers that were there was outstanding. It was mentioned earlier about getting parents involved. Take a look at some of the meetings and take a look at the parent-teachers organizations that have been able to do various things in the schools and donate money and collect money and have fundraisers that improve the educational quality in the schools. There is involvement with the parents. Not all the parents, but most of the parents. And I'm very pleased as to what's going on. Can it get better? Of course it can get better, but everything can get better.
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to expand upon that in the next questioning cycle as well. But I think, Kate, this is the time for you to get in terms of question. I just want to shift for a moment. And there's been much discussion and there's been signage all across the town with regards to the negotiations with the teachers and the teachers union. And it appears that there is contentiousness between the school committee, school department, and the school teachers. Now, as a school committee member, you would have much to, if you were sitting in that body, have much to do with the negotiations and the involvement there. What are your thoughts with regards to what is occurring to the extent that you know it? And if you were there, what would you be doing or looking at?
Well, I don't have both sides to the story, which there always is. But I know that I wouldn't let it go so far. The teachers need stability. Everyone wants to wake up and know that they have a steady job. So I would just work as hard as I could to make that contract settled. It has to, it will be fair. And that's basically all I could say.
What type
that.
of information would you need in order to make that, if you wish to expand upon it, what type of information would you need to be able to make some decision? Because you're sitting now, you have not only the administration of the schools, you got the negotiations for a budget before the town meeting, and then you also have to manage that budgetary process through your educational needs as well as with your teachers. What type of information would be useful to you, do you think, in order for you to be able to determine how you might execute on that particular issue if you were on the school committee?
I would look at the last contract that they had and see what they are asking for and see if it's that much out of, I would try to make it, I don't even know what to say. I just have to see their last.
Well, the main thing what you're saying is in terms of you would use some background information that occurred from previous things that went on. You might compare it to what other towns and others are paying their teachers. You would look at a number of different factors in order to determine whether it's a fair contract that's being presented for them. Okay. Joker, what might you do with regards to, again, the issue of the contract with the school, with the teachers?
Well, when you're negotiating and you sit down and you negotiate, I thought that Katie said, is it Katie?
Yes.
Good, thank you, I got it right. I thought Katie said a great thing. You look at the past contract first, okay? The other thing is, as you said, you look at the budget, okay? You have to know how much money basically you have in there. And the other thing is, you have to negotiate with whoever the unions are, etc. And you have to actually make a good common sense decision. Now, common sense means that you have to look at the contract, you look at the past contract, you look at your budget. Obviously, your budget is driving it forward. Also, you have to take a look at what is happening out there. Are we in a recession? How much money do we basically have? How much money can we take away from the taxpayers in order to make this next negotiation a profitable and proper one? So we have to do what makes sense when it comes to that. We have to, we also have to look at what you would call, in your own area, what the other teachers are getting. Also, it has to be fair. And making a fair contract is very, very ticklish, because what you might consider fair, somebody else may not consider fair. Okay? But we also have to look at what accomplishments have the teachers been doing. What is causing, if there's any problems with the teachers, what is causing those problems? And I know right now that the teachers are not very friendly towards the school committee and towards the superintendent. From their polls, they're extremely dissatisfied with the way they've been treated via the school committee and Superintendent Rizzi. So
I'm going to ask you to wrap because I'm being magnanimous at this point.
Huh?
But go ahead. If you can either end there and pick it up later, or I'll just give you a moment to close.
I will end.
You end. Okay. Thank you very much, Joker. Deborah, I'd like for you to respond to the question.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, the teachers, we have wonderful, gifted teachers, and when I go into the schools, as I did today, to do some reading and to do a program on Egypt, the teachers are wonderful. And in fact, they asked me to come back another day this week. So, and I've also seen the teachers with with Dr. Rizzi, and it's a very positive relationship because the teachers are, in fact, supported. Now, beyond that, the not having a contract in place is very contentious, and no one likes it. Neither the school committee, administration, nor teachers do. The problem is that the union is asking for a 24% salary increase average over 3 years, and that's simply not affordable. There are automatic salary increases called steps, which you get each year. Those are at 5%. And there are something called lanes, which is a salary increase you get when you get more education, you know, another 15 credits towards a master's or something like that. And just the steps and lanes together equal enough to raise the school budget by 3% a year. And so what we're trying to do is to negotiate a fair contract. Our teachers are paid very well. I have we've done a salary survey, and the only teachers that are paid higher are in Brookline, Concord, Carlisle, and Hingham. So it's, you know, it's a complicated thing. The teachers are not happy. We're not very happy, but I have no doubt that we will get to a contract, and we will get to a fair contract, and it can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned.
George?
Well, since we decided to bring up the fact about the contracts, I'm on the negotiating team. I went to my first union negotiating meeting. It must have been about a year ago in February. I sat at the table and I said, we are reasonable people, and there are 8 teachers and their lawyer. And we were 5 people on our side. I said, we're reasonable people. We should have this contract settled by June. And they laughed. And they knew that this thing would drag on and on and on. The only ones I see making any money out of this are these lawyers who come in and get paid X amount of dollars. Nothing personal, Joe. Please don't take it the wrong way.
Say that hit me
Okay.
right in the heart.
No, it's all right. It was nothing personal. But like Deborah said, between the steps and what the union is looking for raises, turns out to be, over a 3-year period, is over 24%. I, as a senior citizen, as a taxpayer, like everybody else at this table and out there, I don't know if anybody in 3 years is going to wind up with a 24% increase. I made a proposal, I worked the numbers, and the contract, or what the union was looking for, was basically 8.25% over 3 years, which was down from 9. They conceded a little bit. And I worked the numbers. And I took it out for over 3 years based on the current numbers. And being generous in my calculations, it wound up over a 3-year period, roughly about an 8.48% increase for every teacher, including the ones at the top step who basically get no raise. That was rejected, along with the 3 or 4 other proposals on salary negotiations that were rejected also by the union reps. Now, to me...
Look, George, you're on a roll, but your 2 minutes have elapsed, and maybe you can come back to it, if you will, in the next questioning, but I want to try and keep everybody to the time. So I want to be appropriate for everyone that's on the panel. Randy, you haven't had an opportunity to weigh in on this, so your thoughts.
Well, like everyone, they want the contract done and settled. But it has to be done and settled where it's fair for everyone. It can't just be, honestly, blindly just say, okay, this is what you want, here, take it. It has to be done. You still always have to look at the budget. You have to look at everything that's mandated by the state. You have to look at every part of it. It's not just, okay, yeah, I know the teachers take up like 3/4 of the budget or something along those lines. So you really do have to look at everything. Yes, we need a contract done. We need a contract settled. We also need one that isn't going to break the town at the same time. So it has to be fair and equitable for both sides. Should it be? Would I like it to be settled? Yes. would, I'm sure they would like it to have been settled so they don't have to deal with the questions anymore. We all would.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is it a big problem? Yes. Are there teachers probably looking at other towns because of it? Absolutely. I know there are. Teachers themselves have told me they're looking at other towns because of it's not settled and they're unsure. And we can't have teachers just leaving, you know, good teachers leaving just because of the contract. We really need to sit down and really figure it out. I mean, whether it's lock in a room, stay there for a week, get it done. I mean, something's got to be figured out equally. There has to be give and take on both parts. If one side is not giving it all, then there's a big problem. Again, the three of us are not in that room. We don't know what happens inside that room. We don't know if it's the school committee that's being stubborn. We also don't know if it's the teachers that are being stubborn, because we're not in that room. So there's got to be a happy medium somewhere, and it's got to get done. Either way, either they have to give, or the school committee. None of us know what it is because we're not in there. Nor should we. You know what? It's a private negotiation. It shouldn't be done in public. You know, certain figures, I don't know, should be settled. You know, and said. The school, there's like the union shouldn't be making, you know, getting certain people involved. The school committee shouldn't get, you know, everything should be done privately, and it hopefully will get done soon.
We're having such a great time here with this discussion that I'm watching the clock and I noticed that we're going to be running out of time. Let me just put out some issues that may be consideration in the future. Obviously, we're going to, you know, and I'm going to ask for you as I go forward, pick the one that you want to speak about. But I think there's certainly the issues, there's always one been raised. I think Joe you raised this, and that was around parental involvement. I think you raised that issue.
I did.
There's the issue of the new high school and the funding and what that's going to mean, both in the sense of if the Mass State Building Authority, Massachusetts School Building Authority provides its percentage to the town, there's still a percentage that we're still going to have to kick in order to make that happen. There is a changing demographics. That's been mentioned, the changing demographics. And there are more students maybe coming in that may have English as a second language, students who are going to, you know, in terms of special needs, et cetera. Those are some issues. We're not going to be able to get to all of these things today, but I'm sure that as you go through this process, these are things that you need to be thinking about. For me, diversity in hiring is critical, looking at the hiring practices that are in place. So these are some of them. And so, Joachim, I'm coming to you, and in order that everyone will be able to get their 2 minutes at the end, you're going to have real quick time. So pick the issue that you want to talk about of any of those. Let's talk about it, because when that clock gets down to 10, I'm coming back and allow you to do your 2 minute wrap up. Joachim, you're on.
Okay, I'd like to talk about getting the parents involved, which is probably the most difficult thing that I think any school committee or any superintendent or any school has a problem with. It's very, very difficult to get the parents involved. Why is it? Because the parents are involved in their own lives. They're involved in taking care of their children. They're involved in teaching their children, etc. They go to work all day long. When they come home, let's put it correctly. When they sit down and they eat, they don't want to move anymore. So how do you get them involved? You do have your PTOs, etc. All right. You also have your schools. The way that you can get parents involved that I can think about is you send a letter home and have them tell you when they are available. Then what you have to do is you can probably set up a meeting in the high school, okay, and bring all of these parents in. Now, you're still not going to get all of the parents in, because no matter what you do, you're still never going to get them all in. There are just some people that are just not going to come in and give you their reasons and why they want to do that. So that's probably my greatest thing is I'm out of time. Thank you very much, sir.
Deborah.
Well, first off, oh gosh, there's so many issues here, but as far as parental involvement goes, one thing that I have found, and certainly as a parent, it is hard to make the time to come into school or meet with a teacher, but there are a variety of ways in which the schools can and should communicate with the parents, and one of the ways is social media. About a month or so ago, I worked with our new communications specialist to set up a Facebook page, and we got 300 followers in 48 hours, and now we have over 500. The final thing I want to talk about is the potential new high school. That was a huge thing for our town. And as Senator Joyce pointed out, it's not only going to be great for our students, but as in other towns, there is the huge potential for economic development.
Thank you so much. George.
All right, so we're talking about parent involvement, and parents pick and choose what they want to get involved with. Did anybody see the attendance we had at the championship football game when we played over at Marciano Stadium? The thousands that were there? A lot of parents were there. Did you see the game over in Easton when we played for the Hockomock League Championship? People were there. Did you see the girls' basketball game that was held at Stoughton High against the team that beat us, unfortunately, Foxborough? The place was jammed. Parents pick and choose what they want to get involved with, and it's up to them to do that. But the key is, for me, I want to get the teachers' union, the teachers' contract settled. And everybody else has agreed. It's taking too long, and I want to get it settled. I've made numerous attempts to try to get this thing squared away, and right now I feel like I'm batting my head against the wall, and I think I've used my time.
You're great. You folks are great. Randy.
Honestly, the high school definitely needs to get fixed. We need a new one. I went to that high school, and that was a long time ago, unfortunately. And that does need to get done. I know we've been shot down, I think, 2 times because of proposal mistakes, I believe. So that we really need to take a look at why we got shot down for getting the funding for the new high school and what was the mistakes done in the proposal. As far as getting parents involved, George is right. Parents get involved with what they want to get involved in with their kids. Letters, unless it directly affects your kid, most parents won't get involved unless that happens. Yes, like the football games, everything like you say, yeah, parents got involved. They love doing that, because it showed pride in the town, which has been lacking in the school system, where there hasn't been pride in this town in a while. Hopefully that will get done, and hopefully the contract will get settled, so that way teachers will have pride in this town and maybe get invested in this town as well. Thank you.
Kate.
Hi. All right, well, parents getting involved. Let's try to do something different instead of having night meetings after work when I don't think anyone really wants to go back out. Maybe, moms like to go to Zachary sometime. Maybe we can all meet there and have some coffee and discuss whatever needs to be discussed. Let's change it up a little bit. Also, the Facebook is a huge communication. There's just ways that we can try to get everyone involved, but that's what we have to do, is to try to get everybody involved.
Thank you very much. You folks have actually been great. We're down to the time. I am going to have to make an executive decision because I won't be able to close out the program if you each take your 2 minutes.
I won't be taking my phone,
and
too.
I'm not going to allow that because I am the host, and I'm going to close out the program. Otherwise, I have to answer to Roy Cohen. So therefore, I'll give you at least a minute and a half to do that. And now this is the time to tell folks, okay, they've heard what you said on the issues. Why should they vote for you? Deborah.
I bring to the school committee scientific understanding, commitment to education, passion for students and teachers, creative thinking, and hard work. In my 4 years on the board, one of them as committee chair, I have seen capable and committed teachers at every level and a strong administration that continually reforms instruction. I've spent my entire career in science education and have a passion for it. It is vital that our kids are prepared with 21st century skills, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, technological fluency. They need to be able to compete in a global economy and be comfortable there. Leading the community-wide effort that resulted in Stoughton's acceptance into the state funding process is the achievement of which I am most proud. This will bring our town tens of millions for a new or renovated high school. And I relentlessly pursued that goal for 3.5 years, developing relationships with our state legislators. This will inescapably improve Stoughton for the better. I want to continue my work on your behalf and on behalf of our students. I have proven that I can get things done. Please vote for me on April 8th and return me to my job on the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. George?
I'll be brief because I want you to be able to do your closing.
Thank you.
First off, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that you had this program. I appreciate that. I'd also like to thank the other people who have decided to run for the position. Thank you.
Thank you,
It makes
George.
it a little bit more interesting. We just don't want to have somebody just walk right in. Based on my experience, based on my service to the town, to the school committee, to the kids in the community, I feel that I'm the most qualified candidate, and I ask for your vote also on April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy?
I grew up in this town. I went through the schools in this town. I probably could say I'm, a townie. I love when I went here, and I want to return it to where it was. I don't believe it's there right now, but I believe we can get back to where it was. Thank you.
Kate? Thank you, Randy.
I would greatly appreciate your vote on April 8th. I will work hard for our children. I will bring a mother's point of view to this, who has children in the Stoughton schools, to this committee. I will work to settle the teachers' contracts so that we can move forward, gain stability in our schools. Doing this will help our children receive quality education without the interference of political agendas. There also needs to be more communication and transparency in school committee. If I'm elected, this is something that I will work with the school committee to achieve. I want what every parent in this town wants, the best for their children.
Thank you very much, Kate. And Jochen?
The school committee must act in a professional manner, including proper supervision of the superintendent. The superintendent must reverse the recent demotion of Gibbon School to level 3, improve the West School, improve special education, improve student achievement in all Stoughton schools, improve transparency of the administration and physical systems, eliminate unscrupulous hiring practices. There is already a procedure in place. Follow it. Answer the questions of how many employees Dr. Rizzi hired from her hometown. Improve communication with parents and avoid conflicts with teachers. I'm a graduate of Stonehill College, and I know the difference between right and wrong. I am familiar with how the town government works. I've been a town meeting member for more than 3 years. I've served on a municipal regulations committee and now serving on a municipal operations committee. What is my code of conduct? I believe in the Constitution of the United States, which was written by God-fearing men who gave men and women their dignity, respect, and individual freedoms. I need your vote to get elected. If I'm elected, I guarantee that I will always be vigilant and committed as to how the school committee conducts its business and supervises the administration. I am extremely delighted that the Stoughton High School project got an invitation to start the MSBA process. I congratulate the school committee and legislators, in particular the parents and students who wrote letters. Thank you.
Well, I certainly wish town meeting would operate like this. We are finished with time to spare. And I think that this would be a good opportunity. First and foremost, I want to thank each of you, and I want to commend you for stepping up. One of the things that occurs is a lot of people will criticize and complain, but they'll never take the opportunity to step into the shoes of persons who are taking on a responsibility. And as I said at the top of the program, our churches and our schools really are establish what communities are. And so I first want to personally thank you, each of you, for doing that and wish you success in your candidacies. We know that there's only 2 that will be able to serve in that capacity. And I think I want to talk a minute to our voters, because what we have are 5 individuals who have expressed to you tonight their thoughts and their ideas on some of the issues. And what I've done is put it in context, is to be able to say to you that there are other issues we were not able to cover because of the time here, but these thoughtful candidates are certainly thinking about them. We talked about the view that there's a decline in the school versus those who feel that the schools are doing fine. We talked about and not in great detail, but it was commented on whether there is adequate supervision of the superintendent, and others who say the supervision of the superintendent is fine. It seems to be that there is no disagreement on the fact that there's a need for a new high school, and so therefore the process, as Randy pointed out, well, we have to determine whether we can take it over the goal line. As I interjected, is going to cost more than the monies that we maybe receive from the school building authority, but that's a determination and a decision that's going to have to be made at town meeting. I mentioned about the hiring practices and the diversity, and that is something which may come up in future conversation amongst these persons who are now running for the school committee. We talked about parental involvement, and one of the things that I usually say, the whole issue of education is a four-legged stool, because it involves the students, the parents, the educators, and the administration. And if the legs of the chair is not equal, then you're going to have a chair that you're not going to be able to sit on and be able to use. So we have to find a way in order to make those work in unity in order to perfect what we want as a good school system. And of course, we talked about the changing demographics, which may have an impact on some of our scoring and testing and additional resources that the schools will have to address. You 5 individuals, even while I put those issues out there, you're the ones vying to address those particular issues, and I applaud you in terms of for your efforts as you go through this process. We wanted to hold this program in order to, on Community Forum, to give you a firsthand look at the candidates for school committee. We implore you in order to exercise your God-given right here in order to vote on April 8th for the candidate of your choice. We say if you want to tell others who may have missed this broadcast will be, this program will be rebroadcasted on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays at 6 p.m., Mondays at 8 p.m., and Tuesdays at 5 p.m. I just want to say to each and every one of you, you have made this an exciting discussion. It's always good to hear about what is the passion, the interest that persons who are running for elective office are trying to do and bring to the table. I think that each of you have acquitted yourself well in setting forth what you believe that you can bring to this position as school committee persons. And so as you go forth, good luck in that. And we hope that, again, maybe there'll be an opportunity before April 8th arrives that we will be able to have you back. And I believe you are going to be on SMAC in the future. I think Jeff Pickett has arranged for another opportunity sometime in the future. And so therefore you have an opportunity to hone your messages, convince your voters, and to enlighten and enliven us here at SMAC. So again, thank you very much. Good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.